You can purchase a second-level subscription to Boosty, where you will receive early access to content, original fanfic, that is, without censorship, exclusive continuations of fanfictions. You can see all the details at the link in the description under this video. Like the video and write a comment. Enjoy watching. Description: what do you know about unfulfilled expectations? You probably know a little bit, but not as much as the main character, Naruto Uzumaki. He had parents, a brother, and a sister. He was born into a family of geniuses, so everyone in the village had high hopes for him. They hoped that Naruto would become a protector of the village like his father, but things didn't work out that way. How will the boy act when he finds himself in a society of people who despise him? Part 1. Konoha. One of the 5 great shinobi villages. Its leader, Minato Namikaze, is currently the fastest ninja in the world, and maybe even the strongest. He received his title after his achievements in the Third Shinobi World War. With the beginning of his reign, the Hidden Leaf village began to transform and become better. The economy grew, the military force also increased, and this is only a small part. It may seem that Konoha is an ideal place in this world, but this is only the first impression. In fact, there are a lot of different political intrigues and struggles for power inside the village. Everyone wants to get a place in the sun, and for this, people are ready to do a lot. But let's put aside the political part and move on to the residents. Here, too, not everything is so smooth. Most of the residents are callous and greedy. Everyone wants to get some kind of benefit, and it does not matter what. It can be money, jewelry, or some kind of status. This happens not only in Konoha, but in all large settlements. In Senju Park, a small boy was sitting on a bench reading a book. He had dark red hair and dark blue eyes. He was dressed in inconspicuous dark-colored clothes, namely black shorts, a dark blue t-shirt, and standard shinobi sandals. The boy's name is Naruto Uzumaki, and he is the son of the 4th Hokage. The Namikaze family itself consisted of 5 people: the head of the family, Minato Namikaze, his wife, Kushina Namikaze, and 3 children. Menma and Aim are twins, the spitting image of their father. Naruto was a year younger than them, and during his birth, a 9-tailed fox escaped from Kushina, which was released by an unknown person in a mask. The Kyuubi was defeated by the combined efforts of the shinobi, and then it was sealed in the Hokage's children. That is, Menma and Aim are now the fox's Jinchuriki, but they are not considered demons, but rather heroes. Namikaze was able to change the villagers' views on Jinchuriki, and now they treat them with more respect. Aim and Menma grew up as talented children. They were immediately predicted to become great shinobi and protectors of the village. Minato tried to devote more time to their training, so he even sometimes left a clone at work. He wanted to raise worthy successors and revive the Namikaze clan. Kushina was an ordinary housewife who made various Fuinjutsu seals at home in her free time, and then sold them. She spent more time with Aim, since it was easier for her to find a common language with her daughter than with her sons. Although she also communicated well with Menma and supported his endeavors in the path of ninja in every possible way. Naruto grew up a little lonely. His parents spent less time with him. His brother and sister often made fun of him because of their age and said that he was talentless. And it all started in early childhood. The parents carefully monitored the progress of their children. The twins learned to walk, talk, and read very quickly. They also actively wanted to become a shinobi, so they even tried to train on their own. Minato and Kushina noticed all this and were glad that they had such children. Uzumaki was about the same as everyone else. He did not stand out in any way, that is, just the most ordinary child. But the parents did not give up and waited for their youngest to suddenly show some talent, or a desire to become a ninja. In the end, Naruto did not live up to their expectations. He looked like the spitting image of Uzumaki, but he had little chakra. That is, the appearance was passed on from the mother, and the internal qualities from the father, but there was no genius. More precisely, there was, but in a different direction. Uzumaki began to show great interest in drawing and creativity. He loved to spend hours enjoying nature and reading books. Minato and Kushina understood that every child has his own individuality, but they were very preoccupied with the idea of raising their children to be shinobi. As a result, they simply began to pay less attention to him, but gave freedom to his creativity. They bought paper, pencils, markers, books, so that he would simply fall behind and be seen less often. Indeed, Naruto had a great talent for drawing and a good memory. He could see a landscape, then come home and draw it down to the smallest detail. This was the only activity that helped the boy escape from reality, because during the process of painting, he was not bothered by the jokes of his brother and sister, the condemnation of the locals, and the cold looks of his parents. In fact, Uzumaki was also a genius child, perhaps even more than Menma and Aim. It was just that the twins inherited their character from their mother, so they were noisy and put all their successes on display. Naruto was quiet and calm, so he was almost unnoticed. He was also a pacifist, that is, he did not like violence, and did not want to become a ninja. This was logical, because he had a subtle creative nature, which has no place in the world of shinobi. The locals began to condemn his choices and positions, instead of accepting or treating them with understanding. Naruto became a disgrace to Minato, because where has it been seen that the son of the Hokage did not want to become a ninja? At first, Uzumaki thought that he could cope with everything, that he would be able to continue drawing and doing his business, but he could not stand the pressure from society. It is very hard to live when almost all the residents call you a mediocrity, a disgrace to the Hokage, and just a worthless person. That is, if an ordinary child was not a genius, then no one would care, but if it was the son of the Hokage, then he was immediately bad for them. People are cruel by nature, so they condemn people who think differently, that is, pacifists, which Naruto was. It was hard for the boy to hear all these statements and insults, so he tried to appear less in crowded places. At home, there was little peace either, because his older brother and sister were always coming up with some offensive jokes, and he could not find support from his parents. Therefore, Uzumaki began to spend more time in parks, forests, and other quiet places where he could just sit and think. When the entire Namikaze family went out for a walk, to the store or to a restaurant, the residents fell silent, because they were afraid of somehow offending their beloved Hokage. That's how two-faced people were. And Uzumaki was very irritated and even enraged by this, but he could not do anything. Over time, Naruto became withdrawn and shy. He often apologized for everything he did badly, which made some people go into a stupor. He did not look into the eyes during a conversation, but tried to look away. Uzumaki's brain tried to close itself off from the whole world to save it, but it only got worse. People put an end to his shinobi career, because a ninja must be brave. The boy himself tried to change somehow, to become more open, but it did not work at all, since it is difficult to change what had been happening to him for several years. But he had one success. Naruto asked his father to enroll him in the Shinobi Academy, where they go from the age of 7, and now he was 6. Minato immediately fulfilled this request, because he thought that his son would look up to his older brother and sister and take an example. His father was proud of him for the first time, which brought Uzumaki a lot of joy. But it didn't last long. Naruto was the youngest at the academy, since he went there earlier. He tried to study well, so as not to disgrace his father. He was good at memorizing a lot of information from books, so he was one of the first in theoretical subjects, which some began to take advantage of. Many of his classmates asked Naruto to do their homework for them, and he agreed, because it was difficult for him to refuse for 2 reasons. Firstly, he was shy, so it was easier for him to just agree than to refuse. Secondly, children are very cruel, and Uzumaki understood this at such an early age. Many classmates, mainly clanless ones, often offended Naruto, since he was smaller and weaker. They could simply bump him with their shoulder, accidentally push textbooks off the desk, or tear a drawing. Sometimes it even came to minor beatings, and Uzumaki even tried to tell his father everything, but he did not believe him, since other children said that the red-haired one himself started the fight. Therefore, Namikaze was disappointed in his son again. Uzumaki did not understand why everyone treated him like that. He asked passers-by, classmates and teachers, but no one answered. So Naruto started looking for answers in books. He read different genres: philosophy, psychology, and regular novels. The boy loved reading books, so he could easily sit in the library all day. He never found the answers to his questions, but from bits and pieces of different books he was able to form the opinion that people simply must have a scapegoat, or an outcast. It does not matter who it will be, he simply must be. Uzumaki realized that he needed to get rid of this title. In a book on philosophy he will find the expression, "The world is ruled by the strong," and in another he read about the philosophical concept of Superman. Naruto set himself the goal that he will become strong, and then his father will recognize him. Part 2. Naruto began his improvement with simple training. He understood that he needed to be able to stand up for himself, and for this he needed to train. There were no problems with the training plan, because Uzumaki had repeatedly seen his brother and sister training with their father. After coming home from the academy and doing his homework, Naruto went to the training ground. Of course, he had his own near his house, but he didn't want to show himself to his family. Uzumaki wanted to become very strong, no matter how childish it sounded, and show his father that he was wrong. He chose an abandoned training ground and one close to the edge of the village, so that he would meet fewer people. The first thing Uzumaki did was run in circles. On the 5th circle, he fell to the ground and began to greedily gasp for air. Physical exercise was very difficult for him, considering the almost complete lack of sports. While the children ran and played ninja, Naruto read books or drew. All this had an effect in the future. "Yeah, I'm really weak. I won't even be able to run away in case of danger." A thought came to the red-haired head. "But you need to continue and not give up." After that, he stood up and began to do squats. During the training process, Naruto thought out loud. "And how do my brother and sister manage to do all these exercises? Do I really just not have any talent to become a shinobi? No, it's probably something else." Uzumaki was right. Menma and Aim had great endurance and a lot of chakra, because they are Jinchuriki, that is, they can handle all the exercises easier. Naruto was just skinny and weak, which made sports more difficult for him. But he was smart and had a good memory, which gave him advantages in other aspects. For example, he knew more about different elements, countries, techniques, and more. He also had an excellent understanding of human anatomy, which would be a big plus in the future. And a ninja doesn't really need big muscles, since a shinobi must be flexible and agile. Having finished squatting, Uzumaki began doing push-ups. Everything was really bad here. "You need to do 10 times. 10 times. 10 times." He repeated out loud to himself so as not to give up. His hands were shaking treacherously and preventing him from doing the exercises normally, and large drops of sweat were dripping from his head. Having somehow finished the push-ups, Naruto began doing abdominal exercises. He also realized during his training that he was calm now, and did not think much about the bad things that were happening in life. "It's like when I'm drawing. I can also do something and not think about anything, because I'm focused on the process," Uzumaki thought. After some time, Naruto finished with physical exercises. He decided to sit under a tree and think about what to do next. So, brother and sister would start practicing taijutsu, but this option does not suit me, since I still do not have the necessary physical data. Suddenly Uzumaki smiled, because he remembered how Menma tripped and fell right into a puddle during one of the sparring. In fact, Naruto loved his family, he just did not show it so openly. He liked spending time with his father, mother, brother and sister. After all, it was a little easier for him with them than with ordinary residents, because they were his family. His parents also loved him, but they prioritized the older children, and the twins simply did not think much about such things. "Exactly! I need to improve my chakra control so that I can do super cool techniques later," the red-haired man thought with childish enthusiasm. He immediately moved to the lotus pose and began to meditate, slowly dispersing the chakra through the channels. This action immediately gave off a slight burning sensation, which passed with time. After a long hour, Naruto stood up and shook off the dirt. Then he stretched to loosen up his muscles. Well, it was a little training, but it was difficult. Right now I'm still limited in some things, because I can't train in taijutsu or kenjutsu, as well as bukenjutsu. I hope I can solve this problem in the future. Uzumaki turned around and went home. During the way, he lowered his head down and looked at his feet and thought about his life. His thoughts were about his self-improvement and development. That is, he is now developing his body and brain, but he forgot about his soul. The soul is character, and Naruto's is very weak. Now the red-haired man simply did not know how to overcome his shyness and lack of confidence, so he hoped that all this would pass in the future. Arriving home, Uzumaki went to the shower to wash off the dirt and sweat. Then he quietly walked to his room on the second floor, put on clean clothes and lay down on the bed to read a book. Naruto had just relaxed in the warm bed when suddenly a loud cry was heard from the kitchen. Kids, go wash your hands and have dinner. After these words, loud and frequent stomping was heard in the hallway. It was Menma and Aim running a race. Uzumaki simply left the room and slowly went to have dinner. Downstairs, he discovered that instead of the usual table, a festive one was set. There was a lot of delicious and appetizing food and drinks on it. Mom, what's the occasion? Aim asked, interested. Kushina answered right away. Today will be a family dinner, if you can call it that. Your godparents, Jiraiya and Tsunade, and the third Hokage will be coming, so try to behave well. She smiled tenderly and went to finish the preparations. The children simply sat down at the table and began to wait for their father and guests to arrive. Do you think the third Hokage is strong? And is he stronger than his father? Menma asked, finding it hard to just sit in silence. Aim, who was also an active girl, immediately answered the question, because it was hard to remain silent. There is some old man depicted on the mountain with the Hokage's faces, so I'm not sure that he is very strong. And there is no one stronger than Dad in the world. The last sentence was said with pride. Then the girl turned her gaze to her younger brother and asked him, What do you think, Naru? You read so many books, I'm afraid your head will soon burst. Uzumaki didn't expect to be asked at all. In general, it was rare for anyone to ask his opinion, and then so suddenly. Naruto had a slightly better relationship with his sister than with Menma, so he decided to answer. The third Hokage was nicknamed the Shinobi Professor, since he possesses 5 elements, and knows all the techniques in Konoha, even clan ones, but which do not require an enhanced genome. Some even equate his strength to the shinobi gods, that is, to the founders of our village. Therefore, I think he is very strong. The red-haired man expressed his point of view. Menma wanted to say something in response, but suddenly they heard footsteps and conversations in the hallway. The twins were immediately distracted by the noise and turned around. Then they ran to meet Minato shouting, Daddy. They also met guests there who brought sweet gifts. Jiraiya gave the bag of candies to Menma, Tsunade gave it to Amma, but Hiruzen went further into the kitchen. There he met a boy sitting alone. Well, hello, Naruto-kun. These words drove Uzumaki out of his thoughts, because of which he turned towards Sarutobi, and then immediately looked away. The third one handed over a package, which Naruto accepted. He tried to smile, but it didn't work out very well. Thank you, Hiruzen-sama. The red-haired man thanked the guest. The former Hokage himself thought for a bit. Somehow it seemed strange to him that the youngest of the family was the calmest, and the elders were frisky. Sarutobi decided to watch the boy that evening. After a while, everyone was at the table. The adults were drinking strong drinks, which made it a little more difficult for them to think. Menma and Aim told different stories about the academy and their new friends. In the end, each story ended with some kind of instructive instruction from the Sannin, who had already drunk a lot. Hiruzen told his stories, of which there were many during his long life. Naruto listened to him with undisguised interest. This whole idyll was broken by Senju with her sudden question. Hey kid, why are you silent? Is there really nothing to tell? Oh yeah, that's right, you don't go to the academy yet. It took Tsunade a long time to get his thoughts. Uzumaki wanted to remain silent, but he understood that it would be worthwhile to become more courageous and social, so, having overcome his fear, he answered. Actually, I went to the academy at 6 together with my brother and sister. One sentence that is worth nothing to an ordinary person was some kind of feat for Uzumaki. Naruto was able to object to the man, and also to the Sannin, but it was a little easier here, because he simply told the truth. Are you some kind of genius? Senju asked suspiciously. Due to his drunken mind, it seemed to her that Naruto decided to brag about it, and she really didn't like proud people. You should thank your father that you were accepted to the academy. Tsunade, Namikaze Sr. wanted to interrupt Sannin. Minato, wait. I'm raising your children here, and you're in my way. The blonde turned her gaze back to the boy. You see, you're kind of puny, a real weakling, so they wouldn't have accepted you to the academy ahead of time. You sit here like you're cool, although you yourself are worthless. Alcohol really made it difficult to think. Tsunade said these things in the heat of the moment, so she didn't try to get to the truth. Naruto couldn't even answer anything in his defense, but just sat, listened, and was silent. When Tsunade's speech, which was quite drawn out, ended, Uzumaki decided to go to his room. He stood up and quietly said, "Thank you?" It seemed like no one noticed his departure, except for Hiruzen. Everyone continued to sit and have fun, remembering the past. Closer to late evening, the children went to bed, and the adults stayed. Naruto was simply afraid to answer, because of his shyness. He is also simply withdrawn, but from his few words I already understood that he reads a lot. In some way he reminds me of Orochimaru. I hope that he will not go to the dark side. A thought flashed through Sarutobi's head. This evening was hard for Naruto. He had just started to fight his shyness, when suddenly Tsunade ruined everything and rolled back all the progress, and maybe even further. Uzumaki realized that it was better to make friends in order to communicate, but then it turned out to be a vicious circle. He needed to find friends in order to communicate, but he couldn't, because he was afraid. Part 3. Naruto's life began to change, but slowly. Physical training helped him become a little more confident and stronger. Chakra control increased, and quite well. In general, he began to become better. Of course, the attitude of the villagers did not change from this, because they wanted more significant results, and not some small affairs that did not bring anything useful to the village. But for Uzumaki, these small steps meant a lot. He began to try to start a dialogue with the guys at the academy, although not always successfully. It was very difficult for the red-haired to find a common language with them, since their interests differed greatly. A whole month had already passed since the dinner with the Sannin and Hiruzen, and today Naruto decided to take a big step for himself, that is, to refuse the guys to do their homework. Now Uzumaki was sitting at his first desk and listening attentively to the teacher. Or so it might seem. His thoughts were far from the history lesson because he was thinking about his mini-speech. Naruto wanted to think it through so that it would be convincing and leave him alone. Suddenly, Irika, the teacher, noticed that one of his students was not listening to him. He decided to attract his attention with a question on the topic. Naruto Uzumaki, name me 2 gods of shinobi and briefly tell me what they are famous for. Yumino's voice was like a bolt from the blue, which brought the red-haired man out of his thoughts. He immediately jumped up from his seat and began to answer the question. The first god of shinobi is one of the founders of our village, or rather Hashirama Senju. He was known for his improved tree genkai, as well as large amounts of chakra. The second is Uchiha Madara. He founded Konoha together with Hashirama. He was known for his Sharingan, which is called the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and he was also able to subdue the demon fox and attacked his own village, but the first Hokage was able to defeat him. The third is Hiruzen Sarutobi, the former third Hokage. He is called the god of shinobi and a professor, since he owns the 5 elements, and knows almost all the techniques in Konoha. Naruto answered automatically, since he read a lot and knew the biographies of most famous shinobi well. Of course, The answer was quite fast and in one breath, but at least so. Excellent, everything is short, clear, and interesting. I give the highest score. Iraka put a grade in the journal and continued reading his lecture. Uzumaki learned his mistake and began to listen to the teacher. The studies were held at a leisurely pace, since it was only the first year of study, so the workload for the children was small. During this day, Naruto was able to talk and get to know two people well, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akimichi. He found them to be good and kind people who would definitely not wish harm. You could sometimes talk to Shikamaru about some interesting and even philosophical topics, but only when he was not too lazy. Choji could always cheer him up and treat him to chips, which showed his kind soul. In their company, Naruto felt calm and was almost not embarrassed to speak, so he could express his thoughts freely. Also today, the red-haired tried to talk to the Uchiha, but he simply silently looked at him with a cold gaze, which is why Naruto decided to leave as soon as possible. During this day, he realized that it was a little easier to talk to children than to adults, since they did not see him as a disgrace to the Hokage, which he was not. The villagers are strange. Did they really want to see cosmic results from a 6-year-old boy? Every child develops differently, and this must be taken into account. After the last lesson, Naruto stayed in the classroom to wipe the board and sweep the floors, since he was on duty. Having finished his business, he went out into the completely empty corridor. Only Uzumaki wanted to go home, when suddenly someone grabbed his hand. He turned around and saw a group of about 5 people, led by Kiba. The guys quickly surrounded the red-haired man. "Hello, Naruto. Take our notebooks and bring them tomorrow by 8 in the morning." Inuzuka held out a small stack, which Uzumaki did not take. Undisguised surprise appeared on Kiba's face. "So you refuse?" he asked with a smirk. "Yes, I just thought that I can't anymore." He was interrupted by a sharp blow to the solar plexus. Naruto bent in half and tried to catch his breath. "Well? You haven't changed your mind?" Inuzuka did not even feel any shame for his actions. Uzumaki began to shake a little. He felt scared. He wanted to agree, but an inner voice stopped him. "If I agree now, then everything will be in vain. I have to refuse, even at the cost of a couple of blows." Naruto took a deep breath and began to speak out loud confidently. "No, my decision will not change." Kiba just started laughing out loud, and then said, "You are brave." A blow to the knee followed from behind, causing the red-haired man to fall to his knees. Inuzuka was about to deliver a knee strike to the face, when suddenly he himself received a blow to the jaw. Everyone turned to look at the unexpected guest. It was Uchiha Sasuke. "And you still want to become a shinobi, although you yourself beat up one in a crowd? You are just trash." Uchiha's words had a good effect on Kiba's gang. They all knew that Sasuke was strong and from a famous clan, and he would not remain silent, unlike Uzumaki. "Okay, let's go, guys." The guys just turned around and left. The brunette approached Naruto and helped him up. "Thank you," Uzumaki thanked briefly. "You're welcome. I just did what I had to do, which was protect the weak." It was unclear whether Uchiha said this on purpose or not, but it sounded offensive. "Actually, I'm not weak, it's just—" He was again cut off from finishing his sentence because the brunette interrupted him. "Are you just afraid to fight and simply hurt someone? And you're afraid to even look into their eyes?" Uchiha simply read Naruto like an open book, although there was nothing difficult about it. "Why yes, you're right, but I'm trying to change." Uzumaki's voice again trembled treacherously, although it was surprisingly easier to speak with Uchiha, but perhaps it was because he was speaking emotionally. You want to change and become strong, right?" Sasuke asked a question, but the red-haired man only nodded. "And who do you want to do this for?" "For my father, so that he would acknowledge me." After Naruto's words, Uchiha smiled. "And I must for myself." This is where you and I are similar, Naruto. Probably, somewhere before the academy, everyone thought that I would be the new genius of the clan, so they constantly compared me to my older brother. Sound familiar? So, when I did not live up to their expectations, I began to try to catch up with my brother in strength. I chased after him like his shadow, but it was impossible. Do you know why? The brunette asked. Because all people are different, right? It only dawned on me recently, when I met you. From the outside, it is easier to understand what the problem is, but it is more difficult in yourself. But since our situations are similar, I was able to do it. We can consider that thanks to you, I can be myself and develop as I want. I can no longer copy all of Itachi's behavior. So what are you getting at? Uzumaki understood the meaning of the words, but not the idea itself. I want to help you, that is, to thank you. Let's become friends and become better together. Uchiha extended his palm for a handshake, to which Uzumaki was able to confidently respond. Of course, the last sentence sounded childish, but it made a lot of sense. And they themselves were still children. Naruto and Sasuke both had trouble socializing, Uchiha because of his seriousness, and Uzumaki because of his shyness. They suited and complemented each other. Part 4. After the friendship with Sasuke began, Naruto's life changed. Now he no longer felt lonely, as did the Uchiha himself. Uzumaki stopped being bothered by Kiba's gang, as they were afraid of being beaten. The friends also realized that they had quite a lot in common, from ordinary household things to interests in literature, but their worldviews were different. Most of all, Sasuke was annoyed by the red-haired man's pacifist position, as he considered it wrong. Naruto himself understood that he would not live long with such views, so he gradually began to change under the pressure of the brunette. At the academy, the boys sat separately, since it would have been simply impossible to be together, since numerous Uchiha fanatics did not give anyone a break, and he did not want to sit at the front desk. Therefore, they communicated more during breaks, which most of their classmates were very surprised at first. Menma and Aim were generally shocked that their younger brother was able to make friends with the eternally cold Uchiha. They themselves wanted to make friends with all their classmates, which they almost succeeded in, if not for Sasuke, who simply could not stand Namikaze. One day after the academy, Uzumaki and Uchiha were walking home. They were moving silently, so Sasuke decided to break the silence. Naruto, you don't need to go anywhere right now, do you? Uchiha asked as if he wasn't even interested. Naruto was surprised, so he thought about what to say for a couple of seconds. Yes, I'm free until the evening, Uzumaki answered honestly. Sasuke just smiled contentedly. It's Friday, which means that homework can be done on the weekend, then let's go train, or are you against it? Naruto rarely heard such long speeches from the laconic Uchiha, so he concluded that it was important to him. Actually, I would like to draw tonight, but I think I can put things off. And training with Sasuke will be useful for me, because he knows more about the shinobi craft and trains under the guidance of his father or brother. The red-haired man was guided by approximately these thoughts. Okay, I think this is a great idea. A few minutes later, Naruto and Sasuke were already at the training ground, and not even an abandoned one. At first the guys started with a warm-up, or rather Uzumaki tried to keep up with Uchiha. After all, the brunette's physical fitness was much higher. Now they had only run the 10th lap, when suddenly Naruto fell to the ground. Sasuke turned around and was surprised. Are you already exhausted? It was a strange question, judging by the red-haired man's condition. It's like you don't see it yourself. The words were often interrupted by heavy breathing. Okay, then you rest, and I'll run 5 more laps. Uchiha continued running, and without Naruto he finished it much faster. Apparently he was holding back a little so that Uzumaki could keep up. The rest of the exercises were done in about the same way, that is, Naruto tried to do it as many times as Sasuke, but it didn't work. When the warm-up was over, the guys sat down to rest for a bit. What are we going to do next? Uzumaki asked on the matter. Usually after the warm-up I train in taijutsu, and then in bukenjutsu. We can have a sparring match to find out your strength, the brunette suggested. Naruto was afraid to refuse, because he thought that then Sasuke would stop communicating with him, so he agreed. Go ahead. There was an immediate sense of uncertainty in his voice. After answering, Uchiha stood up and walked to the center of the training ground, and Naruto followed him. We'll only use taijutsu. We'll start on the count of 3. Sasuke briefly explained the rules. Uzumaki simply nodded. 1, 2, 3. Naruto just closed his eyes and covered his head with his hands in anticipation of a blow that never came. He stood like that for a few seconds, and then opened his blue eyes. The Uchiha's face was displeased, which made the red-haired man confused. What's wrong with him? Did I do something wrong? Why isn't he attacking? Why is he standing there looking at me like that? A cloud of questions appeared in Uzumaki's head, to which he didn't know the answers. There was silence that hit his ears hard. Naruto didn't know where to go, when suddenly Sasuke began to speak. Naruto, do you know what friendship is built on? This question from the brunette greatly surprised Uzumaki. Friendship is built on truth and trust. Naruto continued to think about where his friend was leading him. It's obvious that you didn't want to spar because you're afraid and you simply don't know the basics of taijutsu, so why are you lying? The red-haired man only lowered his gaze and sat down on the grass. He realized that Sasuke was testing him on purpose. I did it because I was afraid of not living up to your expectations, that you would leave me. Forgive me, please. Uchiha was surprised that Naruto was so sensitive in terms of emotions. The brunette simply walked up to him and ruffled Uzumaki's hair. You're a fool, Naruto. Friends don't leave each other over such trifles, on the contrary, they help to cope with difficulties. You could have just said that you don't know the basics of taijutsu at all, and that would have been fine. Don't think that you're so weak. Now in our class only clan members know how to fight, and ordinary civilians can only deal a few blows. But try not to lie in the future. Sasuke's words were able to calm Uzumaki down. And stop apologizing for everything already, otherwise you look like Hinata, but you're not a girl, are you? Or are you still a girl? A smile appeared on the brunette's face, and then laughter was heard. Naruto felt offended, which is why he decided to say something offensive in response. At least I don't look like a duck. They are still children who joke about such things, although they can talk about complex topics. Uchiha was probably more offended by this statement, which is why he immediately attacked his friend, as a joke, of course. Sasuke tried to fight Naruto, although there was no reason for this, they were just fooling around. The red-haired man just laughed loudly at his friend's reaction, and also tried to save himself. The brunette turned out to be stronger, which is why after half a minute he was already able to knock Naruto to the ground. Okay, that's it. We've fooled around and that's enough. Uchiha let go of Uzumaki and stood up. Let me show you the standard elements of taijutsu and simple techniques for starters. I won't go into detail, because the Uchiha style won't suit you, so in the future you will need to create or find a suitable one for yourself. After these words, Sasuke stood up. Repeat. He said briefly to Naruto. He in turn stood up in exactly the same way, even without mistakes, which surprised the Uchiha. And then what? Naruto was impatient at this moment. Watch carefully, I will show you several types of strikes first, and you will repeat them. Sasuke showed the basic strikes with which training begins. Uzumaki surprised him again and repeated everything without a single mistake. Is everything correct? The red-haired man asked with a little concern, since he was tense by the silence from the brunette. Yes, now repeat this combination. Sasuke decided to conduct another experiment. He wanted to show Naruto his combination of strikes, which he came up with himself. First, Uchiha did a 2, then a hook, a sweep and an uppercut. He did all this deliberately slowly so that Uzumaki could see. The series of strikes was not difficult, but very practical in a fight. Naruto did everything very slowly at first, that is, each element separately, as if memorizing it, and then repeated everything together. Uchiha's jaw dropped. How does he do everything so perfectly? And how did he disappoint his father then? Ah, right, he just didn't even want to become a ninja. That's why Minato-san got angry. But he really does have talent. Sasuke finished thinking only when he saw Naruto in front of him, who was smearing his hands, trying to bring his friend back to the real world. Sasuke, what's wrong with you? Uzumaki asked worriedly. Everything is fine, I was just thinking. And so you did everything right, but your speed is still low, so in a real fight it will be difficult to hit someone even your age. Uchiha thought again, and then an idea came to him. Can you throw kunai? In response, he received a negative nod. Then let me teach you, but we need to find a couple of kunai near the targets, otherwise I don't have any with me. After these words, the guys went to the other end of the training ground, where the targets were located. By the way, Naruto, why don't you train with your brother or sister? Okay, with your father, but do you have a bad relationship with them too? The brunette asked. Naruto thought for a moment, but answered after a few seconds. It's much more complicated than that. I had a falling out with my father because of my views, and then I wanted to prove that I could also become strong, so asking him for help would be tantamount to losing. And he's just busy. Menma and Aim don't know how to explain or teach at all, unlike you. And they spend more time with their friends or their father in their free time. And their character isn't very good. They're only so kind in public, but at home they can easily lock you in a room or do some other nasty thing. Perhaps they only behave this way with me because I'm weak and can't fight back, but then it turns out that in the future they will offend the residents because they will become strong. From Naruto's side, his reasoning was correct. In fact, Menma and Aim weren't evil, on the contrary, they often defended Naruto in front of his father, but when he himself wasn't looking. It's just that due to their age, they fooled around and tried to toughen up his character, but it only got worse. But this doesn't cancel out their good intentions. I roughly understand. Okay, let's look for kunai. It was probably the longest hour in Naruto and Sasuke's lives. All this time they walked near the targets, in the forest behind them and just nearby in the clearing to find the treasured pieces of iron, which were nowhere to be found. At one point, the boys were about to give up, when suddenly Uchiha with his kina was able to notice one kunai sticking out right in the branch of one large tree. They found the kunai and solved the problem, but immediately a second one appeared, since they did not know how to get this kunai. They did not yet know how to walk on trees, and it was very high to climb. In the end, the smart head of Uzumaki came up with the idea to knock the knife down with sandals. Sasuke did so, and in the end one of his shoes got stuck on the branch, but at least they got the kunai. They tried for a long time to remove one sandal, but nothing worked. The boys sat down under the tree and thought about what to do. What should we do? I can't go home in one shoe? Sasuke was indignant about the current situation. Naruto decided to defuse the situation. No, you can come in one. Say that you fought against a dangerous opponent and defeated him, and his name was a mighty oak. Uzumaki began to laugh. Suddenly a strong wind rose, causing the tree branches to shake violently. Naruto did not pay attention to it, but it was a mistake, because the Uchiha's sandal fell right on his head under a gust of air. Now Sasuke was laughing, often repeating one word. Karma! The red-haired man only rubbed the bruised place. Let's go already, show me how to throw these kunai and let's go home, otherwise it will soon start to get dark. Uzumaki decided to get down to business. Uchiha did not mind, so he took the kunai and went to the targets. There he demonstrated the correct grip and technique. Of course, even his accuracy was not perfect, because Sasuke was only 7 years old. But that was a plus, because he started training at an early age. Did you understand everything? At times, Uchiha resembled an older brother, although that was more or less the case, because Naruto was younger. Menma, for example, didn't care about him much and didn't help him. Basically, Aim was an example for Uzumaki, although she also liked to joke. Yes, there's nothing complicated about it. Naruto took the kunai and threw it. He only hit the third ring. On the second try, he hit the second, and on the third, right in the bull's eye. Yes, it's easy to throw from a standing position, you just need to correctly distribute the force for your hand and the angle of the wrist. In motion, most likely, you will also need to take into account side effects, but it's better to do this in the future. Uchiha just stood there in shock. So his friend learned to throw kunai in such a short time? That's exactly what he didn't believe. Didn't anyone tell you that you were a genius? Sasuke asked. No, everyone said the opposite, although it's stupid to expect something from a child who hasn't even started doing anything yet. Naruto was still trying to figure out the reasons for the villagers' attitude towards him, but he didn't understand. Maybe there's some secret to how you learn everything so quickly? Uchiha asked out of curiosity. I don't know, maybe it's all about memory. I just looked at you and repeated the movement exactly like you did. It's probably similar to the Sharingan, that's what they wrote in the books. Uzumaki explained his point of view. Yes, you're right, but the Sharingan doesn't copy everything, it sees everything in great detail, and also in slow motion. And these abilities make it possible to copy a technique or technique. Sasuke explained the Sharingan's action, which turned out to be really interesting. I think it's time for us to go home, otherwise it will soon be completely dark. Agreed. After that, the guys said goodbye and each went their own way. It's been an interesting day. I hope no one is worried about me now, otherwise I'll have to hurry. Naruto sped up and ran home, although he had little strength left after training. Part 5. After training, Sasuke went home with Naruto. Running past one of the alleys, he heard meowing. Curiosity and interest got the better of him, so Uzumaki decided to look there. It was dark in the alley, and the only source of light was the moonlight. With each step, the meowing became louder, which meant he was nearby. The red-haired man saw a tail sticking out from under the box. Lifting it, he found a small smoky-colored kitten with blue eyes. He was thin and small. And who abandoned you here? Naruto asked the kitten, but he could not get an answer. Then Uzumaki began to stroke the cat, and he, in turn, quietly purred. Maybe I should take you with me? There was a noticeable hope in Naruto's eyes that everything would work out, but it quickly faded. Oh no, Mom is allergic to cat hair, and Dad might be against it. The red-haired man immediately became sad from the realization of his helplessness. But suddenly a great idea struck him. Right. I thought of it. I will come to you every day and feed you, and also look for an owner for you. Perhaps everything will work out, and then you will find a home. Deal? It was strange to ask an animal a question, but he seemed to understand and answered with a short meow. Then Naruto took a bag of sandwiches from his school bag. Today he had one left, which was very useful. He separated the sausage from the bread and put it in front of the cat. I hope this will be enough for you. I'm sorry I can't buy you normal food, it's just late, and I'm in a hurry to get home. The kitten just sat down and looked at him with an understanding look. See you tomorrow. Naruto kept his promise. A whole month has passed, and he goes every day and brings food to the kitten. The Uzumaki even came up with a name for him. Now his name is Maru. Of course, the red-haired man's plan was not ideal, since the kitten simply would not be able to survive in winter, and there was very little time left until that time of year. He often asked his acquaintances, classmates, and friends who could take Maru. But everyone refused. Naruto did not lose hope and continued to look for an owner. Things were better with training. Uzumaki now knows taijutsu quite well, so he can fight back. He also learned to throw kunai and shuriken. In general, his memory helped him learn very quickly. Naruto did not risk doing any manipulations with chakra, so he only improved control and did not learn techniques. Today was a very ordinary day, in which Naruto and Sasuke decided to train together. Everything went as usual, warm-up, practicing taijutsu, bukenjutsu, and in the final there was even a sparring match, in which Uzumaki, of course, lost. Still, there was a big difference in experience. The guys were sitting under a tree and resting after a small fight that took a lot of their strength, when suddenly a teenager or a young man, with black hair and the same eyes appeared in front of them. Naruto was surprised by the sudden appearance of a stranger, but seeing the calm expression of the Uchiha, he relaxed. Brother? What are you doing here? I thought you were on a mission. Sasuke was glad to see his brother, which was very noticeable. Brother? So this is Itachi Uchiha, if I remember correctly, flashed through the red-haired man's head. I recently returned. Mom told me to invite you and your friend to dinner too. The elder Uchiha turned his head towards Uzumaki. You are Naruto, right? He saw a nod in response, so he decided to continue his speech. My name is Itachi Uchiha, nice to meet you. Likewise, Naruto said. Sasuke's brother seemed like a good person to him. You wouldn't mind having dinner with our family, would you? It's just that Sasuke was telling me that he had made a friend, and my mother was very interested in finding out what you were like. So she endured it for more than a month and decided to invite you. I'm afraid that my parents will be waiting for me at home, and they simply won't allow it. To be honest, Naruto didn't want to go somewhere to visit, because he felt uncomfortable with other people, even though it was Sasuke's family. Don't worry, my father, Fugaku Uchiha, and yours are good friends, so you can just say that you were visiting us, and nothing will happen. The Uchiha was too convincing, which is why Uzumaki gave in. If so, then I agree. With some humility, Naruto answered. That's great, Sasuke said. Then let's go faster, because I'm very hungry. After his words, everyone present laughed and went to the Uchiha clan quarter. 15 minutes later, Naruto walked through the Uchiha clan territory, where the guards let him pass, since he was accompanied by the sons of the head. Uzumaki walked and constantly looked from side to side, because he really liked the architecture. Indeed, the Uchiha were a rather conservative clan, so they adhered to traditions. Because of this, the houses were in the same style. It's very beautiful here, Naruto said. I'm glad you liked it, Itachi answered happily. We're almost there. A minute later, they found themselves in front of a large mansion, which was also made in a traditional style. There were several trees in the yard, the shade from which saved them in sunny weather. The paths were made of cobblestones, which added antiquity to the overall image of the house. Inside, they were met by a woman of about 35 years old with dark blue hair. She was dressed in ordinary house clothes and an apron. Hello, children, and Naruto-kun. My name is Mikoto Uchiha, Sasuke, and Itachi's mother introduced herself. Go wash your hands and then come to the table. The children did so. They rarely talked about anything at the table, as they were waiting for everyone to gather. Soon Mikoto finished preparing the last dish and brought it to the table. It turned out to be baked chicken. Mom, when will Dad come? Sasuke asked. Fugaku went to the clan council to discuss various matters there, so this might drag on, and he will be late. Uchiha explained. To everyone's surprise, after Mikoto's words, footsteps were heard from the hallway. It was the head of the family, Fugaku Uchiha. Darling, wash your hands and sit at the table, Mikoto said to her husband. Fugaku simply nodded silently and went to the bathroom. When his hands were washed, he came and sat down at his place. I see that you came, Naruto-kun. Make yourself at home, said the head of the Uchiha clan. Uzumaki tensed up at the sight of Fugaku. This man was outwardly serious and stern, which is why not everyone could calmly be in his company. Everyone started eating, and an awkward silence hung. Naruto was not a fan of talking much, so he did not start a dialogue. Mikoto decided to dilute the situation, and she invited Uzumaki to dinner. Naruto-kun, Sasuke told us a little about you, but we would like to know more. We were even surprised that someone could become friends with Sasuke. The younger Uchiha was a little offended by his mother's words, and Itachi just quietly laughed at this situation. What is there to tell? The red-haired man thought for a moment and answered after a few seconds. You know my family, so there is no point in telling you about it. He thought again to think through his speech. I like reading books, especially on anatomy, and I also draw well. Wow, I also liked to draw when I was a child, but for some reason I stopped. Mikoto said. Maybe you could bring us one of our drawings in the future? Uchiha asked. If you are so interested, then I can draw a family portrait for you after dinner. I just need a piece of paper and a pencil, Uzumaki suggested. Wonderful. Fugaku, you don't mind, right? No, I'm all for it. Naruto-kun, then tell me how things are going with your training. or the academy. After all, the head of the clan was a businessman who was more interested in the strength of people than their character or personality. He knew how to judge by strength. I started training quite recently, so I haven't achieved much success. I learned to throw kunai and shurikens, thanks to Sasuke, and I also learned basic taijutsu. Naruto didn't like to brag, so he tried to answer modestly. This is a good result, considering that you've only recently started training. I think you'll become an excellent shinobi and protector of the village in the future. Fugaku turned his gaze to his youngest son. And you, Sasuke, follow Naruto's example. He's been training for such a short time, and he's already almost caught up with you. Uzumaki felt awkward, as he was being praised for no reason. When dinner was over, the entire Uchiha family sat down on the sofa. Fugaku sat in the middle with Mikoto. Itachi was on his father's left, and Sasuke was next to his mother. Naruto was given an A3 sheet of paper because it would be difficult to fit all the details on a smaller size. In general, Uzumaki liked to paint, but now he decided to do the work with a simple pencil. The red-haired man did not want to delay the Uchihas because it would be very difficult to sit still for a long time. Of course, he could remember everything and try to draw from memory, but then he could miss something. And so, while working, Naruto could ask to change his pose or something else. In the end, he drew everything in an hour. It turned out to be a very beautiful family portrait, which the older Uchihas looked at for a long time. This is amazing, Naruto-kun. You are simply a master. Mikoto could not be pleased enough. Even the eternally serious Fugaku smiled, realizing that now he had a portrait of the whole family. I agree, this is very good work, and if you consider the short period of time, it's completely amazing. Even Itachi looked at the drawing for a long time, looking at the details. They spent about 10 more minutes discussing the drawing. Then Fugaku had to leave temporarily, since he was the chief of Konoha police. Itachi went with his father, and Mikoto went to her friend's house next door for 5 minutes to get some detergent, since she ran out of it. Only Naruto and Sasuke were left in the house. Uzumaki noticed his friend's displeased face, so he asked what happened. Sasuke, are you okay? Uzumaki was really worried. Am I okay? Uchiha raised his voice. Do you even realize how stupid this sounds? So you were invited to a party, you show off in front of everyone how cool and great you are, and everyone praises you. Even my father has never said so many good things to me in my entire life as he did to you today. Sasuke was angry. Naruto didn't know what to do. As Sasuke, calm down, it's just that your father is very polite, that's why he complimented him so often. The red-haired man tried to reason with his friend, but it was not working well. And what's wrong with that? It's just that your father decided to praise his son's friend. You are not my friend! The Uchiha screamed in a voice full of hatred. Get out of my house and never come again. Naruto did not want to argue. These words completely killed him. He simply left the house and went home, hanging his head down. Maybe I really am worthless if I lost a friend because of such a trifle? Part 6. The next 2 weeks passed quite calmly for Naruto, which surprised him. There were no problems with his studies, nor with training. Of course, everyone in the class already understood that Uzumaki and Uchiha had quarreled. Sasuke himself was in no hurry to apologize, since he considered his position to be correct due to the great Uchiha pride. Naruto simply resigned himself to his friend's stubbornness, and waited for enough time to pass. Kiba and his friends didn't bother Uzumaki yet. The red-haired thought that they were afraid of his strength, which he was a little right about, but the real reason was different. Inuzuka was very vindictive, so he wanted to take revenge and show Naruto who was the boss and strongest here. In general, Uzumaki's condition might seem normal on the outside, but inside he felt bad. There were several reasons for this. Firstly, the quarrel with Uchiha had still touched his sensitive heart, and secondly, winter would soon come, and he still had not found an owner for Maru. Almost all of Naruto's thoughts were about the little kitten, for whom he was very worried. It was the last lesson. Uzumaki was sitting at the same desk with Shikamaru and Choji. They weren't particularly interested in the lesson, so they were quietly chatting to pass the time, which was going very slowly. The guys were even tired of talking, since they had managed to touch on almost all the topics. Nara was so tired that he just went to bed. Naruto decided to look out the window. The sky was covered with clouds, the trees were bare, and all the colorful leaves were lying on the ground. In general, everything seemed dead and lifeless. Suddenly, the saving bell rang. Many students breathed a sigh of relief, because their torment was over. When the teacher gave him his homework, Naruto jumped up and hurried out of the academy. It was already cool outside, but bearable. He was going to Maru to check on him and bring him some food. The streets were deserted. Apparently no one wanted to go out in such bad weather. Suddenly, Uzumaki felt something cold and wet on his face. "Rain?" flashed through the red-haired head. Then Naruto looked up and realized that the first snow had started. In any other situation, he would have been glad, but now he was not. Uzumaki understood that Maru was still small, so he simply would not survive the winter alone, which was quite harsh in the land of fire. The owner was still missing, and it was impossible to hide him at home. A hopeless situation. Naruto also had the feeling that he was being watched, but looking back, he did not find anyone. As soon as Uzumaki reached the alley, he saw a familiar face there. It was Kiba, who was holding his hands behind his back and smiling strangely. "Kiba? What are you doing here?" Naruto asked. A counter question. Inuzuka made a thoughtful face, and then smiled sharply. "Ah, right. You are looking for him, right?" The dog owner took out a kitten from behind his back, which was meowing pitifully. Akamaru, Kiba's puppy, who was sitting on his head, began to bark. "Let him go!" Uzumaki had a bad feeling, so he wanted to save the kitten. Naruto was about to rush into a fight, when suddenly he was grabbed by both hands from behind. "Let me go!" He tried to get out, but nothing worked. Kiba was able to persuade the older guys from the academy. "Stand and listen to me, then maybe everything will be okay," said Inuzuka. Naruto had to calm down. "That would be great. You see, Naruto, when you became friends with Sasuke, you stopped giving us homework. No, it wasn't fatal, and we found a replacement for you. But the new person makes a lot of mistakes, which we don't like. Now you're no longer friends with Uchiha, which means there's no one to protect you. That's why I'm offering you a profitable partnership, not like at the beginning of the year. You just do our homework for us and help us with tests, and we'll leave you calm, and maybe even protect you sometimes." Kiba's speech had been prepared in advance. It was obvious that someone even helped him. "So, there are only 3 of them. That is, if I can somehow distract these 2 who are holding me, I'll be able to make a dash and save Mara. I just need to buy some time to break free," Uzumaki reasoned. "And what if I refuse?" He decided to bargain. Inuzuka's smile grew even wider, although it looked more like a grin. Then, Kiba began to draw out the last vowel, simultaneously taking a kunai out of his pocket. "Then it will be the end for your cat." After these words, he squeezed his hand tighter, which made it difficult for Maru to breathe. "Stop this! Let him go!" Uzumaki shouted. It was a pity that no one heard him on the street, since this was the edge of the city, where few people lived. "Just say that you agree." Kiba raised the kunai close to the kitten's stomach. Naruto was afraid and trembled, but not from fear for himself, but for Maru. "I agree, just let him go." Naruto already thought that after these words they would let him go, but he was wrong. "I don't believe you," the dog owner said briefly. "You're just saying this out of emotion, not from your own desire." I agree, he repeated these words many times in a row. Kiba seemed to enjoy Naruto's suffering. Already close, but not enough. Get on your knees and say it again." Uzumaki had already forgotten about any pride, so he immediately fulfilled the condition and said the necessary words. "That's it. Now let him go." Kiba only smirked at the red-haired man's words. "You know, I changed my mind. We Inuzuka don't like cats at all. Your Maru is kind of annoying me too." He keeps meowing and meowing. Kiba began to bring the kunai closer and closer. Uzumaki realized that he had to act. He filled his hands with chakra, which he did for the first time, but it was enough to hit the two boys who were holding him in the groin. They immediately let him go. Naruto was about to run at top speed to Kiba, when suddenly he felt someone holding his leg. It was the one who was holding him. Apparently, he had a high pain threshold. Uzumaki kicked him in the head to free himself. As soon as he turned his gaze to the dog handler, he suddenly saw Maru lying on the ground, pierced through with a kunai. Naruto's mind was overwhelmed by uncontrollable rage. He wanted revenge. I'll kill you. Uzumaki slowly approached the stunned Inuzuka, when suddenly he was hit on the head from behind with a bottle, which broke into hundreds of pieces. Naruto immediately fell and lost consciousness. Let's run from here. Everything went wrong. Kiba and another boy, who was sitting in ambush, helped the remaining two to get up. Then they ran away. And the snow continued to fall and fall. It seemed like it did not want to end. A real snowfall. Large white flakes continued to fall on Naruto's body. Suddenly Sasuke enters the alley. It turns out that he went to look for Uzumaki right after the academy to apologize. What happened here? The shocked Uchiha asked. He saw a lot of blood that stained the snow in crimson spots. Naruto! Sasuke turned his friend from his stomach to his back. We need to call for help. He ran out into the street and started calling for help. Luckily, a jounin was passing by who decided to help. Sasuke took him to the alley to take Uzumaki to the hospital together. Part 7. Konoha Hospital. The ward was filled with the annoying sound of medical equipment and a strong smell of alcohol. The head doctor and Minato were standing next to Naruto, who was unconscious. Chikao-san, what's wrong with my son? When will he wake up? Namake's voice did not seem worried, but rather indifferent, as if he was tired of everything in life. It's quite complicated. The man cleared his throat and continued speaking. He was hit on the head with a bottle. We got out all the shards, and the wounds were treated and healed. So what happened to him? Minato did not want to waste time talking, since his profession required organization. He's in a coma. These 3 words were very difficult for the Hokage. It was as if he was brought out of his state of indifference, and he was really worried about Naruto. But when will he get out of there? It was a logical question, but at the same time stupid. Unfortunately, no one knows. It could happen now, tomorrow, or even in a few years. It all depends on him and his desire to live a normal life, and not with us. Chikao's words were not reassuring at all. Minato didn't know what to do, so he decided to leave. If there is any news about Naruto, then contact me immediately. Having said these words, Namake's disappeared in a flash of lightning. The doctor was also about to leave the room, when he suddenly heard a knock on the door. Sasuke's head appeared from the doorway. Excuse me, can I visit Naruto? The Uchiha asked. First of all, who are you to him? The doctor asked. I am his friend and classmate, Sasuke Uchiha. The brunette introduced himself. Chikao thought for a few seconds, and then made a decision. Then you can sit with him for about 5 minutes. The doctor let Sasuke into the room and then left. Before closing the door, he said, But keep in mind that he is in a coma. The door slammed shut. Sasuke didn't like hearing these words. He couldn't believe his ears. The Uchiha simply walked up to the lying Naruto, whose face was somehow different. If earlier it exuded a desire to live and have fun, because he was still a child, now it was just a serious expression. It's all my fault. I had a fight with him and couldn't protect my friend when he needed my help so much. Tears appeared in the Uchiha's eyes from the realization of his actions. Naruto, please forgive me. I was just a fool who was led by emotions. Sasuke thought about himself, his actions and life. When he finally calmed down, he decided to cheer up the Uzumaki, although he didn't hear him. Naruto, don't give up and keep fighting until the end. You must wake up and continue your normal life and prove to your father that you are strong. I will train so that when you wake up, I can protect you as long as there is a need. But with your learning speed, you'll catch up to me quickly, I'm sure of it." Sasuke's speech was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was a nurse. 5 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. "Sasuke-kun, time is up," a girl of about 25 said. "Okay, but will it be possible to visit Naruto in the following days?" Uchiha asked. Naruto's life is not in danger, so yes, I think it's possible." "Thank you very much." In general, Naruto rarely interacted with anyone, so very few people came to visit him. Among them were Menma and Aim, Kushina, Shikamaru and Choji, as well as Hiruzen. Namikaze, of course, came, since he was a member of the family. The former Uzumaki cried for a long time and said that she had been wrong for many years and paid little attention to Naruto. The brother and sister apologized for treating him badly. Nara and Akimichi came to wish him recovery and tell how bored they were without him. They were all shocked when they found out that Uzumaki was in a coma. Everyone, except Sarutobi. The third Hokage had seen a lot in this life, so it was difficult to surprise him. Flashback. Hiruzen entered the room and sat down on a chair next to the bed. He glanced at Naruto and sighed heavily. "Oh, Naruto, how did this happen to you?" He was about to take out his pipe and start smoking, when he suddenly remembered that he was in a hospital. "When we first met, you seemed like an interesting guy, albeit a little strange. You're somewhat similar to Orochimaru, only more withdrawn. He simply strove for his goals and did not retreat, although you also go to the end. You're just shy. This is probably a bad trait for a shinobi, but a good one for an ordinary person. Naruto, you immediately seemed more interesting to me, smarter and more educated than Menma and Aim. There was something about you." Hiruzen stood up from his chair and went to the window. He opened it slightly to let in some fresh air. And the rules didn't prohibit it. "I think there is no point in talking for long, since you probably can't hear me, but tried to catch the meaning of the words or their message." Sarutobi turned to Uzumaki. "You have a rather difficult childhood, although it is strange that it is the son of the Hokage. But you understand one thing: hard times give birth to strong people. Strong people create good times. Good times give birth to weak people. Weak people create hard times. That is, while everyone lives in good conditions, they will become weaker, and you, on the contrary, become stronger. Our village will definitely decline, but your father is not to blame for this. Minato is a good ruler and was able to restore the village after the war. People just get used to the good, so they stop perceiving the bad that will appear over time. You will have to protect Konoha, and maybe even the whole world. I believe in you." Having said a long speech, Hiruzen left. Everything went almost successfully. Kiba did well, but there is one small but. The man in the faceless mask spoke. The room where he was immediately filled with a creepy aura. "What other but? Uzumaki Naruto is currently in a coma." These were the last words of the man, as his head was torn apart by the explosion.